Let's do a quick review of Module 1. That's what which is officially due today, or at least on my calendar. Module 1 is our beginning ideas of what are our key terms of the course, and what does collecting and organizing data look like. And so we start with, again, this is the homework assignments for Module 1. I want to just review the actual note sheets that I've provided for you in the lecture video. So you can go through the videos, but it's just, again, just a quick review to remind you of what you're working on currently, what's our most up-to-date work. And so you will see the guided note sheets here, and then I already have them filled in. I'll send you this link so that you could go back to it as you either use the video or use this link. And these are my notes that I would have if we were in class. And so when we look at Module 1, again, it just starts with the key terms, talking about population samples. And I guess one biggest idea is statistics. What is it? It's the study of us. We use it to study us. And that's one of the things. We have the tools and ways to analyze this data, right? And data comes in different forms, and data, you will find variation in data. And we also look at what are the probabilities we're observing this type of data, right? Was it by chance, or is there something going on? And so we talk around those ideas of what is statistics, and hopefully this becomes a common theme for you. But I think the most important thing really is a big idea is here that we want to use results from a sample to help us understand a parameter of interest. Now, a parameter comes from the population, and it's so important is that we may never know what the parameter is from a population, because the population is always changing. The population is always going under, it's not static. It is static. It's not constant. The population many times is changing. And so we have to use samples to hopefully explain or describe what we call the population, or the statistic to describe a parameter. So many times we don't know what the parameter is. We just know theoretically that it's a measure of the population, but we use a sample to get that. I'm going to keep coming back to that. And so we go through that idea in this lesson as you go through, if you go use the videos, right? Another big idea is what we call sampling. And so there was an activity, I think, on the handout, so we don't complete it because we're not in class, but you could use this link here to kind of go over that page that's in the handouts of the guided notes for Module 1. You will see, again, examples of different sampling techniques. Here are the kind of more precise definitions for each of those sampling methods. Sampling methods are important. So again, part of those key terms, because it helps us, ensures that we have representative data, that the sample that we collect is representative of our population of interest, right? And so what do we do with that data, and how do we study it? We do it through studies, and those are observational experiments. And I think the key thing here to remember, key idea is that an observational study, right, is different than an experiment. An experiment is where we impose treatments, as it says. We're trying to create some cause and effect. So we're controlling for variables. Where an observational study is we have data, we collect data, do a survey, and they have different, they're both for learning about us and learning about something. But again, it's only through an experiment that we can actually draw some type of conclusion of cause and effect, only through experiments. Observational studies just give us ideas, hints that we see something, but we can never define a cause and effect relation through an observational study. Some additional notes here. If you want to do the sample problem, again, I have answers here as you look at different ways to perform different sampling methods. And then again, examples of variables. And so when we collect data, you have different types of variables, numerical and categorical. And depending upon that type of variable, it allows us then to determine the type of tools we're going to use. Categorical and numerical, we use different ways, different statistics, different parameters to answer questions about us. And so keep that in mind as we go through that. It's very important. And then we introduce the idea of statistical questions, because so we answer questions about us. What kind of questions, right? It's one where you can answer by collecting data and where there's variability in that data. And so we're trying to use that data to answer a question. And here are some sample statistics questions, the types of variables involved in there, what are the observational units, the things that we're studying, right? Are the units observational units or experimental units? Here, these are observational units. We're not doing experiments, those are observational studies. This module ends with summarizing data. So once you have the data, what do we do with it? We have to summarize it. And the big idea is a distribution. What is a distribution? Again, you have the full length videos to do that, but a distribution is basically, what does the data look like? What are all the possible values and how often do they occur? And then we have different ways to describe those distributions through tables, through frequencies, relative frequencies, through percents. Again, they all mean the same. They all are representing how often something comes up. It's just a different way of representing how often they come up. This is, again, where you can start using StatCrunch to enter data in and summarize it, right? When you have large data sets. And so that's what this lesson is, around how to organize this into frequency tables. And this is a little technical section, so you may need to look at the video here, but again, different ways to represent the same values. My values fall into what groups, right? Or what we call classes. And so there's just different ways to write it. And that's all we're emphasizing here, the different ways to organize the data. So use those examples there. And then we end with, again, more revisiting the designing studies, kind of experiments and the different ways we would, some different terms around these experiments. And again, it goes back to how do we collect data? What do we do with it? How do we study? And we have to come up with some very scientific ways or statistical methods to do this. And that's what this section is, just kind of introduction to the different types of studies, how we control for variables within an experiment, factors, levels, treatments, right? And so keep that in mind as you go through this. That would be what we have for module 1.